Well, I already drank, so I'm good to record. What are you drinking tonight?
I got a little red wine tonight, keeping it
Ooh,
classy. Hmm.
UB40, right?
Yes.
Didn't
Oh,
and that
nice.
did was it you who told me that their name is UB40, or I heard it somewhere else in some other podcast?
I always called him UB40.
Right, and I think the word was going around. They're actually UB40.
No, I
Yeah.
just I'm going to tell UB40 that they're wrong about their own band name.
You be wrong.
You be wrong.
Oh,
Oh,
terrible. Okay, let's start.
okay.
Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action sci-fi muddy classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm John Zabriskie,
And I am Jeff Glover.
and today we're talking minute 80 of Predator. Minute 80, we jumped out of those kind of sloggy 70s in terms of sports numbers, and now we're in the 80s. We're going to hit all the wide receivers and tight ends and maybe the occasional weird basketball number. But number 80 belongs to such greats as Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, James Lofton, Chris Carter, Isaac Bruce, Kellen Winslow. All of those aforementioned 80 wearers are Hall of Famers in the NFL. There's also Chris Collinsworth, who you know from NBC Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I don't know. Ow.
I like girls that aren't too bright because you can trick them a little bit.
That's my Chris Collinsworth. I don't know. Ow.
And also, so famous he's infamous, Kellen Winslow II, where he says, "I'm a soldier."
Yeah, I don't give a hell. It's about this you, man. I don't give a flying you-know-what about a ball. I don't give a damn. He'd do the same thing to me. It's war. They don't give a freaking you-know-what about you. They will kill you. They're out there to kill you. If I didn't hurt him, he'd hurt me. They're gunning for my legs. I'm gonna come right back at him. Soldier.
As a Tennessee Volunteers fan, I remember hearing that quote and seeing that blow up right after the Miami Hurricanes lost to the Vols in Miami.
Kellen Winslow, he went on to play for the Browns. Is that right?
He played on a few teams, including the Browns and the Seahawks.
Oh, didn't know that. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, Seahawks love their troubled tight ends.
They do. They do. That's a good list. The Jerry
list.
Rice, Steve Largent, Chris Carter trifecta. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Chris Carter, all he does is catch touchdowns.
To Chris Carter, all he does, catch touchdown.
That's right. That's right. Now, I feel like you started minute 80 opens with, but didn't quite finish that sentence. Do you want to?
Did I?
I think so. Jump straight. You got real excited about the sports.
I was just so looking forward to some good sports names that, some athletes, not just big fat guys. Is he a big fat person?
She's a great big fat person.
Was she a great big fat person?
Okay, we're talking minute 80 of Predator. Minute 80 opens with a muddy Dutch crawling backwards, and it ends with the Predator looking at ... something in Predator vision.
Something.
This
is a pivotal minute. Would you agree?
I would agree. This is one of the great silent scenes of this movie. So many scenes have, loud bangs and witty lines. This one is really dialogue free. We've had 3 dialogue free minutes in a row, and that continues here to really, really give us an awesome visual realization. But that realization doesn't even come until next minute. That's how great the scene is.
This is like one of those great game change moments in film history, right? Like, I just love it when something like this occurs that the first time you're watching the movie, you don't see it coming. And I don't think anybody who watched this movie the first time around saw this little plot twist happening. And so makes it great. That's why it makes it a classic moment in action film history, I think.
Including Arnold or including Dutch, but we can talk about him here in the second half.
Yeah. All right. Should we get into the first section here?
Yeah, take us from the top.
Okay. So the first part of the minute, we will do about up to about 44 seconds of this minute. So we carry over. We got Dutch crawling backwards through the mud, and then we quickly cut to something that's bubbling in the water. Cut back to Dutch kind of grabbing to his leg for his machete.
Stick around.
Stick around.
Stick around.
Only to find that it did not stick around. That machete is gone.
Stick around.
Cut back to the predator who surfaces in the water, shimmering in and out of invisibility. And he's got kind of like electric looking sparks and what do they call that when arc, like the electricity is arcing all over him. We cut to a push-in shot from behind Dutch, looking at the predator walking up onto the shore. Cut back to a muddy Dutch leaning back. Holding some hanging vines. We cut to Dutch's point of view of the predator, pushing a few buttons on his wrist controls, and this apparently makes whatever was going on with his electricity and his cloaking device turn off, because he completely decloaks here and then turns to look right in Dutch's direction.
What?
We'll talk about the second part in a moment, but this is a very cool sequence. Do you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. The camera work, just top notch here with the use of the steady shots, but also the handheld as it's kind of creeping behind Dutch to give him, or to give us, a better perspective about what Dutch is looking at. And I'll probably just cut right to that. Let me find the minute. I want to cut right to that push-in shot, that handheld push-in shot behind Dutch. Okay, that starts at about second 14 and goes to second 26, but it's this fabulously composed shot as the camera itself is moving over some logs and rocks, and over one big rock to Dutch's right, you see the predator's head as the predator is emerging from the water with the sparks, the arcing sparks, as you said. And there's a lot I like about the shot. Number one I like about the shot is when you're watching this the first time from second 14, you don't know where Dutch is yet looking at the shot. Right. It's only as it tilts essentially to the middle between Dutch and the predator that you're understanding how this is all coming together. Literally, the predator is approaching right where Dutch is hiding.
Yeah, and this is just a great cinematic shot here because everything is in focus, even as they continue to push the camera forward, and we get this great full body shot of the predator coming out. We got the electricity going on, and then I love how it cuts. So the camera's moving along the ground towards the predator as he gets out of the water, and when the camera cuts there, it cuts back to the camera again moving towards Dutch as he's underneath the viney space that he found.
Right, like that's the predator's real vision without any thermal or without any augmentation.
Yeah, and it just happens very seamlessly, and it builds the suspense and the dread that you are feeling for Dutch as he's cornered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so good. The special effects, too, I have to mention, are just phenomenal. Like, I love it in a movie like this when a movie that's 30 years old, the special effects hold up as well as they do. Like the costume design of the predator himself is awesome. You kind of see it in all its glory here as he gets out of the water. And then the blue like electric sparks on his body, I think it looks great. And like, it's just such a cool effect.
Yeah, I think it looks great. It doesn't look cartoony at all. It reminds me a lot of when the Emperor in Return of the Jedi is shocking Luke in front of Darth Vader. It has that kind of feel of like, this is like a very natural, well, I mean, talking about Star Wars, but talking about the Predator here, it almost like makes sense in your head that when he jumps in the water, it does maybe something to his electronics, including his cloaking ability. So maybe naturally that's going to affect him.
It's a really cool detail that they didn't have to do. And it probably cost a bit of money to put that in there, especially in 1987. But I love it. Like, it adds a futuristic element. It kind of shows that he has all these cool weapons and devices and abilities, but They're also, they're, what's the word I'm looking for? They're fallible. Like if he jumps in the water with this electronic cloaking device, it's going to get all screwy when he gets into the water. Like that makes sense and just adds a real sort of realness to this extraordinary situation.
Yeah, and I'm just watching over and over again. It's just mesmerizing to think about how do they make that shot, how do they compose that where they had him clearly visible and then he fades to invisible. You can see behind him, but you can still see his shape, his silhouette. It's really amazing. It's really cool to see that. And when he's approaching Arnold with the moving camera, we've seen a couple of times where the camera is moving and the Predator is camouflaged, but we've never seen a shot like this where the camera is moving in and the Predator is moving in and the invisibility is like coming on and off.
Right. Everything is working together and also like working seamlessly. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. So we kind of jumped into it, but the very end of this section, we just get this like really 10-second just hold of the camera on the Predator. And I feel like this is really the best shot that we've gotten of the Predator in the entire movie so far. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels that way to me.
Yeah, I think so. It's a great profile shot, which turns into kind of a head-on shot. You see this shot of this jungle hunter Predator a lot when they're talking about the jungle hunter Predator. When they're talking about the jungle hunter Predator online, it's a lot of times using this shot because it's a nice profile picture. You see his whole body. You see not his whole body, but his upper body. You see his wrist gauntlet with all the controls. You see the dreads. You see the mask.
Yeah,
I tend to prefer the mask personally because I just think it's
he's
sleeker.
One ugly motherfucker.
Yes, he is. He's very ugly.
He's got like some sort of maybe backpack or something on the back of his armor there that's presumably housing some controls for all of his devices and weapons.
I guess I have a I don't know kind of question. I guess I have a zoological question. Let's say, do you think the Predator knows that if he is in the water that his invisibility won't work so well? If not, then this is maybe coming off as like a rookie Predator, like someone who's just dropped off for the first batch of kills.
Ooh. Yeah, perhaps. Or maybe just in the moment he knew he had no choice but to jump and follow Dutch into that water so he wouldn't lose him. And he was willing to sacrifice a little malfunction on his cloaking device as a result.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, either way, we get some really awesome blue electric effects here. So thanks, Predator.
Yeah. Thanks, Electric Predator.
It really is cool. Like, this is one of them. As we watch this movie minute by minute, like, I will admit that some minutes are a little more boring than others. This is a really fun one to watch over and over again. Just if you are an 80s movie geek and enjoy the special effects and all the things about 80s action movies that make them special, like this has got all of that stuff in it.
Yeah, this has everything. It has like it even like you could say subverts the face-off moment. The face-off moment of such an action or science fiction movie where at some point we know these two have to face each other, but this is turning out not to be the time. And so you might be, like you were saying at the very beginning, you might be heavily faked out thinking, well, this is it for Dutch. Like he has to take on the Predator here, but we're seeing that's not the case yet. We're seeing that's a moment that is put on pause because of, like you're saying, this realization that we are realizing in this movie at the same time as Dutch's, as Arnold's character Dutch.
That's a good point. Like when you're watching this, if it's your first time, you're thinking, oh, they're going to come to blows right here. We're about to see a fight scene. Mm-hmm. And they McTiernan or the screenwriters like subvert your expectations with that, with the mud disguise. So I may be jumping up into the next section here a little bit quick, but we have some stuff to talk about with the mud disguise. But before we do, did you have anything else to add for the first part of the minute here?
I think I'm good for the first part. So if you want to take it from the second top, go for it.
Sure. So second part, we're going to go from second 44 till the end of the minute. We cut back to Dutch looking at the Predator from his little vine-covered perch or little hidey hole that he's found. And we cut back to the predator, who is now looking vaguely in Dutch's direction. And then it cuts into thermal vision, the predator vision, and it's scanning, and we notice that he's only seeing blue and black and dark jungle landscape as he scans from left to right. And as an audience, we presume that Dutch is in there somewhere, but he is not showing up in the predator's infrared vision. At the very end of the minute, we catch a glimpse of something that shows some red and some orange coloring. It's small, and at that point, the minute comes to a close.
Yeah, we jump back to the predator vision. It's hasn't been that long. We saw the predator vision as he was chasing Dutch before Dutch fell down the extremely long waterfall.
Right.
And so we know that Dutch is visible on the thermal imaging that the predator has, but to us, we're probably a little bit puzzled, and you might not even see, if you're watching this for the first time, Dutch. He shows up at second 53 in that blue and black jungle landscape.
Yes.
And again, if you're not looking for it, it's very much like when Carl Weathers' character Dylan.
Cause some damn fool accused you of being the best.
Dylan.
I'm going in with you, Dutch.
When he's looking for the predator, there is one moment where the predator is hiding in the tree, and you see the silhouette that he doesn't see right away. And this is very much, to me, a callback to that, and a callback in general to how everybody must feel when they're looking for the predator, not able to see him when he's disguised, being a cheap hunter.
That's a good point. And I will fully admit, I did not realize you could see Arnold in this shot.
It's the bicep that gives it away.
It's the bison that tries.
Bison that tries.
Because it happens so quickly. If you play this clip in real time, it just zooms right by, and like it just looks like sticks and leaves, and he just mixes into the landscape. But when you slow it down and look at it, you're right. You can see Arnold there if you kind of freeze it at, like you said, second 53 or so here. And so I think that's a really cool detail for anyone watching this movie closely, that we can actually see him right there. So are we going to get into the reveal here, the realization of what has just happened, or are we going to save that for next minute?
I'll leave that up to you. I'll leave that up to you.
Well, I guess we can talk. I guess we don't need to beat around the bush. Like,
right.
We know where this is going, and we can talk more about it later. But the reason we were saying this is such an important minute in this film is we learn here a way for Dutch to disguise himself. And it is the application of disgusting, thick mud all over his body that is hiding him from the predator's vision.
Yeah, and it is something that pops up when you search. It is a debate topic when you search up, can you hide yourself in mud from thermal imaging? By and large, most of the sources I found said no, that the mud will heat up rather quickly. Your body heat will heat up the mud, especially considering the amount of mud Dutch has on him, which looks like
Pretty
maybe
thin.
pretty thin layer of mud on him. So it's going to heat up that mud pretty quickly. Then he's going to be visible. They did it on Mythbusters. They showed someone plastering themselves in mud alongside trying other tactics to make it past the thermal cameras, and they couldn't do it. Let's see. I watched a video where someone was also trying someone was trying different things, like a ghillie suit, a wetsuit for some reason, and he was seen every time in the camera. The one argument for yes I found was a scientific study, or written in the style of a scientific article, and that is called, let me find it real fast. I have it linked to my show notes.
While you're looking, I will say that realistic or not, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter to me that much because we're watching a movie about an alien that's hunting some people in the jungle. So I'm willing to forgive if it's not quite realistic. Realistic or not, it's just such a great device to put in here as a simple way to level the playing field between these two characters, Dutch and the Predator. And I think it's pretty ingenious, whoever, came up with that idea. And, it had to take some forethought because they've been showing the Predator and his infrared vision, for a long time now throughout the film. They've been sort of building up to this, that he has this way of seeing people that is foolproof. Well, now Dutch has found a way around that. And it's just a great moment and a great equalizer, and really gets you amped for the last act of the movie, because you kind of say to yourself, oh, well, now what's going to happen now that, he can camouflage himself.
Right. If Dutch is smart enough to catch on that this is hiding him, we're going to see a lot more of this. Hopefully, this tactic, like you're saying, leveling the playing field.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you found a Mud article.
A Mud article. It's from, I believe, the journal titled "Lasers, Technology, and Teleportation" with Professor Magnus.
Ooh, cool name.
Yeah, cool name. Maybe it has something to do with referencing pop culture and doing experiments based around those ideas. But this article is titled "How Dutch Beat Predator / How to Hide from the U.S. Government." And I'll touch upon that idea in a moment or two. They're doing an experiment where they're covering someone's arm with various materials, including mud, to see if they can hide from the Predator, or if they can hide from thermal vision a la the Predator. They mentioned Predator there in the title and there in the first couple of sentences. So that's what they're making this based off of.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm not going to read off all the results or anything like that, but at the end of their results, they came to the conclusion where they say, to this effect, Dutch would in fact be able to hide from the Predator's infrared detection, as was portrayed in the movie. Because the difference in temperature between the skin and the mud was less than the mud was applied to the forearm, the mud made it more difficult to detect body heat while using the infrared thermometer. So there you go. Then they tried other things that helped out too. So yeah, it looks like someone's done a study where I guess it can work. It doesn't mention how long that'll work. I think online people said, yeah, maybe a couple minutes tops. But when you're hiding from the Predator, you're probably going to take any second that you can.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Try it anyway.
Interesting. I like that there are people out there doing scientific studies about this shit. That's great.
Yeah. On top of the scientific people, there's also your, I don't know how to put it nicely, nutcases. When you search up things like, yes, your tinfoil hat wearers, if you will. So I looked up some results for how do you actually hide from infrared, and the results are pretty hilarious. My favorite video was a guy wearing full camo, including a camo helmet and sunglasses, talking to the camera, talking about how you can actually hide from infrared. But he said you can use tinfoil. Tinfoil actually works, it turns out, hilariously enough. Because
Did he make a tinfoil hat?
Yeah, the tinfoil hat. There you go. And I thought that was kind of a funny little connection, because I think the tinfoil hat wearers say that certain waves cannot enter your head, your skull, when you're wearing tinfoil. Right. He also said glass works. If you hold like a glass pane in front of you, I guess that reflects the heat back to you, but you can't touch the glass. And also, if, let's see, use Mylar. And we're using Mylar in our garden to help direct sunlight to growing some cool little plants.
You're not using it to make hats and conspiracy videos on YouTube?
Correct. We're also not using it to grow marijuana, which is what a few different people brought up when I was searching this too. They're saying things like, yes, they can't see through your walls with thermal heat vision. In this case, the they is the federal government, who is
right,
plotting our demise at all times.
Well, now you've given me a great idea, so I'm off to go buy some Mylar.
But they said, watch your electric bills, because they'll, the policia will hone in on those with those high electric bills, just in case they're growing a little bit extra.
Now in Washington State, it's legal to have a certain number of plants of your own growing.
Right.
True. So you just got to move here to the left coast, where we don't give a shit. Everyone can get high.
Right. Want to get high?
Always bring a towel.
Towel.
Want to get high? All right. Hey, how did we do? Did we do this minute justice?
I think we did. I think we're going to have to explore this idea of hiding from thermal imaging using mud a little bit deeper somehow. Maybe someone has some experience out there in the Predator Minute listeners. Palapa.
Target the center of the palapa.
Target the center of the palapa. Thanks, Dylan.
Target's the center of the palapa.
Dylan.
Gosh, anything else? I guess McCommentary chimes in with his commentary. McTiernan starts talking about how Arnold was such a trooper with the mud being really disgusting and stinky, but Arnold, of course, is being awesome, as he probably always is. Good old
I
Arnold.
don't care. I eat mud for breakfast. I just put it on my head, put it on my thighs, and put it on my thighs. I don't care. I do it for the movie.
You eat pieces of mud for breakfast?
Mud for breakfast.
But they were shooting this scene for a week. So every day at 4:30 around dusk time, they're slathering Arnold up in the mud and having him look frightened at the Predator's direction, wherever that
way
may
to
be.
end your day on the set. Like, oh, dusk is here. Time to get covered in mud.
Oh man, yeah. And even though people claim that the mud heats up, keep in mind that means the mud goes on probably cold at first.
Yeah,
so your body is probably going through this terrible shock and then recovery system every time you're about to be facing the Predator, which might help with the whole, method acting angle of things.
Right, yeah.
I want to mention one last thing. So you mentioned it in the first part recap where Dutch, puts his hand on his holster or his knife sheath. Do you think he's feeling for stick around or he's feeling for his Desert Eagle handgun or maybe his own talisman like Billy had?
With a little porn in it. I assumed it was a knife. It looks like a knife sheath right there that he reaches for.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it could be a pistol or something. But have we really seen him use a pistol? I'm trying to think.
Nobody's used a pistol at all in this movie.
Right. Okay. Because everyone carries 5,000 rounds of ammo. So I always thought he was just looking for the closest, quickest weapon he could, which would be his knife that he keeps right there on his thigh sheath. But it's not there. So that's what I always assumed. I actually didn't even think about it being possibly a gun until you brought that up. So I suppose that's possible, but it's not what I thought.
That's just something I was thinking. I'm looking at the stick around clip just to complete our research circle here to make sure it is indeed coming off of his right hip. And it is.
Stick around.
I'm watching in super slow motion as he chucks it into the brown-faced Dave Barry with the Valverde text possibly in the background.
Stick around.
Brown-faced Dave Barry. I forgot about that one. Oh, man.
Stick around.
Stick around. Who was it? Eric Deutsch posting about watching Goonies with his kids.
Oh, yeah.
And there was South American mom Fratelli.
Just trust in your mother, boys.
Trust in your mother, boys.
What the hell are we doing here?
Trust in your old mother, boys. Throw it in the four-wheel drive and hold on to your hat.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I wanted to find that Photoshop that I had done where I put the two side by side. I forgot to find that. I wanted to post that in the comments there, yeah. Maybe I'll go back and do that.
Yeah, we'll have to find that and post that somewhere to show just how on you were. It's eerie.
Yeah. Okay, are we into recommends?
We're into
Have we done
recommends.
this minute?
We're that deep in the minute. We are recommending things. What do you have to recommend, Jeff?
Deep in the mud. I'm going to recommend a documentary that just came out this week.
Documentary.
You can only see it on Apple Plus TV, the streaming service they have. It is a documentary about the Beastie Boys, and it's called The Beastie Boys Story. Now, I am a huge Beastie Boys fan. I've been listening to their music for a long, long time. And if anyone asks me who my favorite all-time music group is, I usually kind of fall back on them because it's music that I can always listen to. And the documentary is really cool. It's directed by Spike Jonze, who directed many of their music videos, along with lots of other movies that he's done. And it's called a live documentary. So this was like a show they did. It was with Ad Rock and Mike D, because MCA sadly passed away a couple of years ago, and they go out on stage and they basically do a live retelling of their story, of their history, starting back when they were like 14 years old, meeting in high school and starting to make music together, and just how everything evolved and how each one of their albums came to be. And as someone who just loves their music and loves all their different albums and how different they all are, to hear the stories behind like how the music came to be was just super fun. And I was grinning ear to ear watching the whole thing, and I just didn't want to stop watching it. I was sad when it ended. So if you're at all a fan of the Beastie Boys, please check out that documentary. It's really, really cool.
What was that called again?
I think it's just called A Beastie Boys Story.
Beastie Boys Story.
It's pretty awesome. I don't know if you're a Beastie Boys fan, but man, there was so much good music in it, and all the stories behind different songs they wrote and how it came. That was just.
I like some of their songs. I like Intergalactic Planetary. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Or just Intergalactic?
I really became like a huge fan of them when I was like 13, 14 years old, and I heard the song Sabotage. And I knew of the Beastie Boys, and I was like, who the fuck is this? Like, these guys are crazy. Like, this is weird and different and unlike anything I've seen before. And I just started going back and listening to all their music, and like I love their first album, right? Like License to Ill is fun because it's got all those like kind of classic party jams, like Fight to Your Right to Party and all that stuff. But that's not really the real Beastie Boys. Like they really started making music creatively as a band like in the next album they made in '89. And that's the stuff that I find like super interesting because it's so different than any other music that was being made at the time. And like, it's just super interesting to me. So anyway, sorry, I'm like fanboying over here, but it was really fun. I liked it.
Well, thank you for sharing your passion with us.
Yeah. What do you got this week, John? What are we recommending?
Well, speaking of passion, good segue, John. High five. High five. I've been watching a lot of the shoe tubers lately, the sneakerheads on YouTube.
Shoe tubers.
Nice. That's right. And one shoe tuber that I've come to appreciate in reviewing and interacting online with, his YouTube name is Shoes Up, Sleeves Down. I'm not really sure what that's a reference to. It might be a wrestling reference, might be like a music reference. I don't really know. I say wrestling because he's really into wrestling too. He has like the wrestling posters behind him when he does his reviews, but he tends to like a lot of the same kind of sneakers I like, which is like the Ultra Boosts. Love those Ultra Boosts. My wife calls them Super Boosts. Super Boosts.
Super Boosts.
Super Boosts.
Same difference.
I'm not really sure what that means.
There's a very like dirty connection to that phrase, actually.
Really?
Have you heard the phrase "face down, ass up"?
I guess so.
It's like from old Two Live Crew songs.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
So it's kind of a play on that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but he's someone who I've been interacting with a bit on the YouTubes, and chatting on the comment section about different shoes and sharing like the newest, coolest Ultra Boost or retro sneakers. I actually picked up a couple of sneakers based on his recommends. One being the Nike Air Max 90s. They remade that model. They remake that model like every few years or so, it turns out, but they're recrafting them with the like original retro design in mind, as they usually do. But this time around, I guess they're super comfortable, so I ordered a pair, and they are really comfortable. And it's kind of cool to look down and see like the chunky retro sneaker. It's I know how nostalgic you are for that kind of stuff, so be a fun recommend to try out sometime, some retro style sneakers. But check out Shoes Up, Sleeves Down on YouTube for the sneaker reviews. He gives us a shout out on I think a couple of videos because I've been interacting with him, like I said.
Nice.
So it's cool to have a little shout out, a little community of shoe tubing online.
That's awesome. Yeah. Nice. Still buying shoes. Does Sarah like your shoe buying habit?
I think so. She tolerates it.
What?
My shoe buying habit.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
It's fascinating. I try to do different styles for my own sake, but also
She gets
for her.
chickens and you get shoes.
See what?
She gets chickens and you get shoes.
She gets chickens. I actually helped her find some sneakers a couple weeks ago. That was really fun, helping her shoe shop. So she found some good runners and some good lifestyle trainers, we call them.
Good for the old electric bike.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's exactly good for taking care of the chickens and electric biking and lounging around the house for long periods of time, 23 out of 24 hours a day. Good Lord.
Putting together those art lessons.
Exactly. Oh, man.
Awesome.
Well, we're done with the recommend, so now we talk about where we can find each other. Jeff, where are you? Where are you, Jeff?
I am on the Twitter. You can find me there. I am Jeff Glover. Carl_Hungus 314.
My name is Carl. Ich bin expert.
Come find me on the Twitter.
Okay, so you can find Predator Minute on Twitter at Predator Minute. You can email the show, predatorminute@gmail.com, or you can join our ever-growing and ever-sharing group online, the Predator Minute Listeners Palapa on Facebook.
Target the center of the palapa.
Target the center of the palapa.
Target's the center of the palapa!
And last week we did a little roll call of all the members, which was way fun. And then in turn, so many of the members are posting for the first time, which was really cool.
That was super cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for anyone who posted and like just giving us nice comments. Like that was really cool. And we are very glad that we can provide a fun little outlet during these weird ass times for some of you. So thank you. That was great.
Thanks.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So if you want to join that group and either lurk or dive in with your own ideas about how you can actually evade infrared and therefore the federal government, then hop onto Facebook at the Predator Minute Listeners Palapa. I guarantee you don't need anything else about Facebook. You just need the PMLP. The PMLP.
Nice.
All right, so for all things Jerry Rice, Minute 80 of Predator, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I am Jeff Glover.
And until next time...
Stick around.
Stick around.
Oh, crap, I threw that half an hour ago. No, I threw that an hour ago. Oh, my God. All I have is mud.
There's mud on my leg.
I'll throw that.